Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies.
Welcome to the NAACP Forum. We are BROCKTON'S choice for civil rights news. We have an exciting panelist in here today. Our first show after COVID-19, which is not over yet, but we have Mayor Robert Sullivan. Welcome, Mayor. We can't shake hands.
No, thank you.
We have Chief Manny Gomes. Welcome, Chief. And we have our illustrious president of the NAACP, Phyllis Ellis.
Thank you very much.
So listen, we're glad to be here. We know you all have some very, very hectic schedule. Mayor, you've come into a mayor's office at a time where there is a pandemic, a time of budget cuts. You have a strenuous job. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with COVID-19, though. Let's get to the health issue.
Thank you for having me on the show, Bishop, and thank you, Phyllis, and thank you for what you both do here in Brockton to better our community. Yeah, I mean, who would think in the year 2020 we'd have a worldwide pandemic?
Right.
But it's really especially hit Brockton hard.
Yes.
Number 2 in the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
We've lost 257 residents. 257 Brocktonians have perished. Our thoughts and prayers go to the departed, of course, their loving family, surviving members. The good news is that we're starting to see it trend in the right direction. As I speak to you now, 67 Brockton residents are current active total cases, 67. Now, if we rewind time a little bit, it had been as high as 2,900.
Right.
We're starting to see a trend, but we're not going to take our foot off the gas. I have a medical consultant, Dr. Rick Herman, that's helping us. Linda Cahill, who has a doctorate in nursing, is heading our Board of Health. We need to be proactive. We need to be vigilant and diligent. In terms of total numbers, 4,254 is the total cases of Brockton residents since the state started calculating. So, again, what we have to say, it's like a broken record. Social distancing, no less than 6 feet. Mandatory mask wearing, and I want to applaud all of you for doing that. This sets the example, but this is what's going to stop the spread. Washing hands no less than 20 seconds. Discontaminating hard surfaces, alcohol content of 60% or greater. And at the end of the day, it's about taking it serious. I've called the chief many, many times, unfortunately, to have Brockton police and cruisers go to Edgar's Playground and some of the playgrounds and fields, asking people, please move on. We know 60% of our loss of life were from nursing homes. The senior population is the most vulnerable, but that means another 40% weren't from the nursing homes. So COVID is still here. It's still hurting people. But we need to continue our efforts and listening to what the medical experts say, Bishop, and that is adhering to the standards.
Well, let's talk a little about, you're saying mandatory masks, and across the country, I'm sure you've seen places like Florida, you've seen some of these, and this is not politics here, but you've seen some of these Republican governors that are saying, the citizen doesn't need to have masks. You have the President of the United States is not leading the fight with respect to masks. What are you going to do differently when you have the forces of the federal government and other governors that are saying that this is not mandatory?
It's very frustrating. I'll be very honest. It's frustrating, when I get these calls or when I drive by and I see people, and I call Chief all the time and other police and the fire as well, Chief Williams. I'm a Democrat, but we'll put politics aside. We have a Republican governor, Charlie Baker, who has, and through Lieutenant Governor Polito, has helped Brockton during the pandemic in terms of giving masks, PPE. We were able to get...
And they believe in the masks.
Oh, absolutely.
Those Republicans believe in the masks.
Absolutely. So when you listen to some of the folks in D.C. and some of the other states, well, we see right now, it's proven that if you don't listen to the standards, it's going to spike back up. Right. We see it in Florida, we see it in Vegas, we see it in Texas. We can't afford that in Brockton, and we can't afford it in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So all of us are good examples, and we just need to keep expressing what we need to do to make it a safe community.
Sure. Now, those that are on the front line with respect to the fire department and the police department, we know that the EMTs are contracted out. Do they have the necessary equipment to respond to these 911 calls, these health emergencies in the city of Brockton?
Yes, and I won't speak because I'm not a cop, but I won't speak to that.
Okay.
But what I can say is a couple things. When masks became mandatory, I called the chief. every cruiser was given additional masks so that when citizens didn't have masks, the police officers, the men and women, could give them out free. Here, wear a mask, please, protect yourself and your family. In terms of supplies that
Right.
we've gotten, the city of Brockton through BEMA, Brockton Emergency Management, has worked with Department of Public Health and also MEMA from the state to get PPE, which were the gloves, the masks, the disinfectants. We've been working with the hospitals, the nursing homes, social agencies such as the Charity Guild. In terms of what Brockton Police have, I'll let the chief handle that. But I feel confident on the supplies that we have. We can always get more.
Right.
And right now, as mayor, I've mandated that we need to acquire more. We need to stockpile.
Right.
Right.
The fact that the city of Brockton only had one health nurse, Evelyn LeBron,
Right,
made
right.
no sense. I want to thank Superintendent of Schools Mike Thomas, because when it started to heat up in Brockton, and
Yep.
we only had one nurse, I
Yep.
called the superintendent. He gave 8 school nurses on loan to Brockton to
Wow.
help us with contact tracing,
Right, right.
to help us. Now, when I mentioned Linda Cahill, who has a doctorate in nursing, she's from the school side. She's on loan right now until school starts again.
So what happens then, Mayor? We
Well,
need somebody in charge,
We've already
right?
posted an ad. We've
Okay.
already posted
Okay.
it.
All right.
We need to fill that.
Yep.
We need to have someone that is knowledgeable and skilled
Yep.
so that we can continue the efforts. In terms of Brockton Police Chief, I'll let you answer that, but
So
I'm proud of what they're doing.
PPE for the Brockton police officers, are they well equipped?
Yes, we are. We have to start from inside our own house and work out. So in order to keep our officers safe, keep in mind the police officers, we share equipment, we share cars, and we share the same station.
Right.
And because
Right.
every shift touches each other, we would contaminate the entire city, and there is really no backup. So
Right.
been very good. The officers have been very good about cleaning equipment and everything they're out. Our cruisers get cleaned constantly by an outside agency to keep them clean. We also, with PPE, we've supplied our officers with the best that we could find, even from outside sources. And as the mayor said, when it came to the public, don't forget in the middle of this, one thing that hasn't been mentioned, we also had a curfew.
Right.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, we're going to get there. We're
Right,
getting
no,
there.
no,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
curfew also played a
Yeah.
role in it, but we took an approach with the masks.
Right.
Rather than be confrontational with people, we're dealing with language barriers, sometimes psychological issues. So we took the approach of being more educational and providing free masks than creating a confrontation. And it was well received. It was well received with the people. So any extra PPE that we had, we stocked all of our cruisers, and while the officers were out doing routine patrol and going
Right,
to calls,
right.
if they saw someone out, they would simply pull over and ask them to wear it, and there was a lot of compliance.
But
Yes.
to the mayor's credit and your credit, Mayor Sullivan told us about 2 months ago, the Brockton Police actually were giving out
Correct.
masks,
Yes,
right? I mean,
yes.
you guys were being proactive, you were being partners in this
Right.
COVID-19 fight.
That's right.
Well, we didn't
guys
want
were
to.
good.
We didn't want to have confrontational
Right.
issues
Over
Right.
a mask.
Right.
Yeah.
over a mask.
Right.
That's really not going to help relationships at all. Giving out the mask has been, I think, has been accepted very well, and there was a very good response to it, and we continue to do so.
So Chief, tell us a little bit about your personnel in terms of their protection, because one of the things that many of the community members are concerned about is how are the cops doing with respect, are there cops out on COVID-19 right now? Has this impacted your staff? We know the city hall closed, but you guys couldn't close. The cops had to be on the
don't close.
ground.
We're us in the fire department.
Yeah,
we're
you
the
couldn't
only,
close, yeah.
We're the only agencies that are open 24/7.
24 hours, right.
And that's constant. I'm very happy to tell you that with the staff that we had throughout this, we've had 2 officers that contracted
They did,
the
yeah,
virus.
unfortunately. Okay.
But when we did an in-house investigation, we found that they didn't get it at work. So what we were doing at work seemed to be holding.
Okay.
They got it from family members, and right now I'm ecstatic to tell you that I have no one testing positive, and everyone's
but-
returned to work.
So did
But
they
you have
quarantine at
yeah,
home, those
Yeah, that's
two?
the question, right.
Those 2 have been tested, and after several times, we allowed them to come back.
Okay.
You know that they tell you that they have to test negative twice.
Yeah.
We went beyond that and had them tested a 3rd time or 4th time because we couldn't allow, if they came back, let's say it was a false positive,
Yeah.
Right.
come back and then contaminate the entire department.
Wow.
So if officers even had flu-like symptoms that wasn't COVID,
Right.
we still ordered them to stay home. The mayor and I worked on that as far as It's the only way we could do it.
But Chief Gomes, now the other thing too is that I think all of us want to hear, you said 2 officers, they recovered, yes?
They recovered.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, no, no.
yeah, we want to
Yeah,
hear that.
yeah.
Yeah, so they tested, but they're recovered.
Yes,
And they're
they
back at
recovered
work?
and they're back at work.
Okay.
So Phyllis, a couple of, maybe a month ago, you and I had a meeting with the mayor and Chief
Yes.
Gomes with respect to use of force policy.
Right.
You've told me that you've become a student of the policy and that you have some questions today. Tell us, any highlights you want to talk about with the chief?
The chief gave me a copy of everything. I went through everything, right? And the thing on the street is, of course, the chokehold.
Yeah.
So I'm looking, I'm reading, I'm looking. I'm like, it's not even in here. Chokehold is not in here, neither is the knee thing. However, whenever a policeman encounters something, every situation is different, right?
Yes.
Even though chokehold is not in here, it becomes a life or death situation between the guy and the cop, and he has to save his life. Can he use a chokehold then?
I would say that in a matter of an absolute life and death, to protect the life of an innocent person, when all else fails,
Right.
This specifically outlines the tools that we give them they can use right up to lethal force.
Right.
Having read it, you see
Yeah.
you see how high the bar is
Yes.
to use lethal force.
Right.
Lethal force in the Brockton Police Department to take any action that might result in the death of another person has to be the ultimate last resort. Someone is going to die, or someone truly believes that they will die.
Right.
And once deadly force is used within the police department, not only is there an investigation, we also turn it to an outside source. In our rules and regulations, tells you that we turn it over to the district attorney's office, an outside source, for analysis. And he has the opportunity to review it, see if any laws were broken, if it's not justifiable.
Right, right.
Or he can turn it into yet another outside agency
Right.
for further review.
Well,
So,
I must
yeah.
say, all this with the death of George Floyd, it came police brutality. And
Right.
for one, I do not see that we have police brutality in Brockton. That's a good thing. I have not seen any of that whatsoever. However, there is a little bit of discrimination, and that comes to me too. So I just want to let you know that as far as police brutality, we do not have that in Brockton as of yet. Yeah.
I'm glad you feel that way.
Yeah, I do.
And I feel that way. And
Yeah.
I know we've talked in the past how officers have to file reports every day.
Right.
If there's any injuries to any prisoners, they would be disciplined and either further action if they didn't file that report. Plus, anybody with any injury has to be seen, physically seen and spoken to by a ranking officer who was not at the scene. Okay? And these reports have to be filed directly to the chief's office
Okay.
that day.
Okay.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
I just want to back up a little bit.
Yep,
That
Okay.
please.
the police brutality on Mr. Floyd, that was a homicide. That wasn't police.
So you believe, Chief, you believe it was murder?
Absolutely.
I saw.
Yeah, you saw
The
it.
mayor has said that from day one.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've said it several times to anybody who'll listen to me. I've been on this job. I'm in my 35th year, and I've been involved in shootings myself. I've arrested a lot of people in my career. It comes with the job, the territory. That is by far the worst tape, video
Yeah.
I've ever seen. For somebody who's been on a job 35 years, for that to be painful to see, I can only imagine how other people would see it.
Yeah.
That was not police brutality.
That was
That
just
was
murder.
a homicide.
That was a homicide.
It was
So, Chief, you in answering, to piggyback off a little bit about what Phyllis was saying, the chokehold was never used with respect to training as lethal force. It was used to restrain. So, in order to restrain someone in the city of Brockton, and sort of looking at the George Floyd incident, can they apply a chokehold in the city of Brockton as a police officer to restrain someone?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not, sir.
Absolutely not. They cannot apply a chokehold
In the city of
in
Brockton.
the city of Brockton.
Oh.
As I indicated, what's in the rules and regulations is what's in these rules and regulations.
Yes, sir.
Is what they can do and what they shall do. The reason why I say that is because they're not allowed to. They're not trained. Okay, in my entire 35 years, officers have not been taught chokeholds and to suppress the carotid artery. in the history of policing, a long time ago, they would do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it was so to get compliance
yeah,
by people passing out,
yes.
but that is too dangerous.
Yeah.
So, but today we have other techniques. We have things like tasers,
Right,
right? And somebody that's out of control and combative.
right.
We have things like pepper spray. Okay? We also spend an awful lot of, a good portion of our money right now goes to training and de-escalation. We're spending our money on training on hands-off things.
Oh.
That's where we're at.
Right, right.
And, you know, and I know sometimes when people hear tasers, taser, I don't particularly want to advocate too strongly for them, but they almost can't be abused, okay? They're very well monitored. There's specific training that goes with it, okay? And the lethal aspect across the country is in the 100th of a percentile from the number of times that it's used,
Okay.
which makes it entirely different from a chokehold. You don't even see police officers really using the old school nightsticks anymore.
No, well, those gone.
You see what I mean?
Do they even carry them? It's the baton,
They
right?
started banning the slapsticks too.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, the slapsticks
very,
are gone.
very few. No, the slapstick. Those
Yeah,
are
I remember
outlawed.
that.
A lot of
They're
these
gone?
things are outlawed.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing that I want to impress on this is that these are last resort items.
Yeah,
Our first contact with people in all of our training, we've been moving the needle towards hands-off,
de-escalation.
de-escalation,
Yeah.
Okay.
deal with their problem rather than escalate.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So tell me a little bit about, okay, so we talked about the chokehold, but what about the knee? Is the knee something that should be utilized by law enforcement here in the city?
Officers will use a knee, but never on a neck.
Never on the neck.
Okay, an officer while trying to handcuff someone might put a knee on the back
On
of
the
their
back,
leg
yeah.
to keep from getting kicked.
Yeah,
Might put a knee on their forearm to keep from getting punched.
yeah,
While other people, but
Never.
never, simply because, like in the issue of Mr. Floyd, okay, it can cause death, and it did,
right. It did cost
and
that.
it did,
Right.
and it did.
Okay.
So Chief, you also, believe yesterday, Lieutenant Brenda Perez has become a permanent lieutenant within the city of Brockton.
Historic, Bishop, historic.
So this is very historic. You know, one of my pushbacks about our cities is that we don't talk about, we're not pushing the good news. Let's push the good news. Tell us about this appointment.
It's a fantastic appointment.
Yes, it is.
We also appointed some other officers, and I got to tell you, I'm very proud to stand up there with them because they
Yes.
all earned it and deserved it, first and foremost. But Brenda herself leads the way in deserving it because she does.
Yes.
But it's also historic as first permanent lieutenant in the history of the Brockton Police Department.
In the history.
That's
Wow.
a
It's a
Hispanic
big deal.
female.
It
It
is a
is.
big deal.
It is. It is.
Yes, congratulations
No,
to her.
How are we going to continue to move the needle with the superior officers so there's more diversity?
The
What's in your toolbox?
well,
Because
the,
Phyllis is going to be calling you if you don't do it.
I understand. As you know, we've talked before.
Yeah.
The municipality.
I know,
And even the appointing authority, who is the mayor, not myself. There are some limitations.
Right.
Some really strict limitations with civil service.
Yes.
It is promotional. Is by a civil service exam.
Okay.
That's where it comes from. But these officers, like Brenda Perez, made it on her own.
Good.
There have been other officers made it on their own. I'm very proud of them. And we hope to continue that. We hope to continue that. I walk around the station trying to get some of my older officers and officers. We have some officers who, what I call indigenous leaders, just because they don't have
The rank.
the rank.
Right.
They're
They're examples.
they're the
Yeah,
leaders.
yeah,
They're the
yeah.
ones that the young kids look at.
Yeah.
They're the ones that the young kids look for guidance,
Right.
take advice from.
Right.
Those are the officers. And you know, when we talk about the look of Brockton Police,
Right.
as I said before, these are all Brockton High kids.
Yeah.
I kid around. I say we have a few Spelman kids.
Sure, you're
But
bad.
no, we do.
In Southeastern, in
In
Southeastern.
Southeastern. No, actually, that's true. But primarily, the police department is
Yeah.
made up of Brockton High class of 80, 81,
Right,
82,
right, right.
83, and that's the way
And you
it's
said it's
rolled.
37% diversity now? Or?
Right now,
Okay.
the I'm happy to tell you, I believe we're number one in the state.
Oh!
I believe we're number one in the
Okay,
state
okay.
Really?
at 37%.
37%.
30%
Okay.
minority. And if you notice, I'm very happy to tell you that the rank structure is also coming along.
Good,
Oh, that's
good.
good.
So let me
American
just, so let me ask you, a couple of these controversial ones, and then we're gonna move on to the mayor on census. But tell us about, what's your position on defunding the police?
Need to
And
be
you see the
changed.
quotation,
Right.
defunding.
Yeah, I don't see how 2 and 2 equals 4 there.
Okay, all right, talk to us.
I think that Americans want to feel safe, and we have to have police.
Can I also just jump in?
Yes,
'Cause
please.
before the murder of George Floyd, I sat down, because we knew COVID was gonna have a huge detrimental impact on our finances.
On your budget, yes,
We
yes.
rely, the city of Brockton's not a wealthy community. We
Right.
rely, just on the school side, over 80% on state funding, Chapter 70. So I sat down with Chief Gomes, Chief Williams, all the department heads, and I said, this is before the murder of Mr. Floyd. I said, we need to cut right now so that we'll be able to save jobs.
All right,
The chief, to his credit, with salary and overtime, we cut $500,000, $500,000 right off the bat from police, 200,000 from fire, so that we could provide the services, save jobs, and also do a projection. We hope the state comes through.
yep,
And then the city council, during the budget hearings, they cut an additional 200,000 from police. And it's about, reallocating funds. We know that a lot of criminal activities are based on either drug or alcohol abuse or mental health, issues. So we hear what the council said. It did pass 9-2. But at the end of the day, we need to provide the services that all of us, all taxpayers, deserve.
Right.
One thing that I can say, Bishop and Phyllis, is I took the mayor's pledge. President Obama and my brothers Keeper Alliance.
Right, let's
the
talk about
pledge.
that. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I mean, and
Yeah.
I sat down with Chief Gomes prior
Yep,
to that, and
yep.
again, we did a press release and review police use of force policies, engage communities by including a diverse range of input, experiences, and stories, report the findings of the Obama Foundation, and seek feedback, reform police use of form policies. So I accepted that on June 19th. The same time, I made a declaration of a community justice task force,
yeah, yeah.
which right now I'm working on.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have wonderful people in our community that are gonna be engaged. We need to create synergy, and talk is cheap, we need action.
Right.
But we need to have well thought out planned action so we
Right.
can have the building blocks. The last thing that Chief Gomes and I did just recently was we filmed a show. So we talked about the 8 can't wait. And I'm sure you both are well
I'm very,
versed in that.
yes, I am.
And we went through all 8 steps. Ban chokeholds and strangleholds. Require de-escalation. Require warning before shooting. Requires exhaust all alternatives before shooting. Duty to intervene. Ban shooting at moving vehicles. Require use of force continuum. And require comprehensive reporting. I'm proud to say to both of you that the chief, when we went through all 8, he checked the box on all 8.
Great.
So right now, we are doing some wonderful things in Brockton. Can we do better? Absolutely.
Yes.
Will we do better? Absolutely.
I have a
Together
question-
we will.
I have a question. Why do you think when people hear defund the police, they think it means get rid of the police?
Well, let me just say, kind of have to back up just a hair. People sometimes presume that we have a national police system. What we have,
Interesting.
right? People presume that along with what they see on TV can lead you in a very false direction. Every state has a different level of training. Massachusetts, I'm happy to tell you, the bar is high here, okay? And officers have to go for a full week of school. The Brockton Police Department, we're sending officers to additional training. And all of our additional training that's not required is all hands-off techniques, verbal de-escalation, how to deal with some of these issues a little bit better. As the mayor said, we're dealing with a wide variety of things.
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
And we want officers that, when they get to the point that they have to use any kind of force,
Right.
and you can see that we have different levels of force.
Yes, yeah, I know.
We-
I
some-
did look at that.
Some police
Yeah.
departments just have lethal and non-lethal.
Right, you have
We
levels.
We have levels and
Yeah.
scales depending on how combative someone is, or if they're just passive resistance,
Right.
or and the officer's response has to be parallel with that. And then once that de-escalates, he must de-escalate also. The non-hands-on training has been essential. And this started long before any of these issues have come up nationwide. We've been sending officers to this starting last fall. We've sent 75 officers at city expense just to de-escalation school. So these things have been going on because we find that a police department that trains more and spends the money on training has better results.
So, but Chief, let's back the conversation up to what the activists are saying. So, to what Phyllis has asked, I find, quite frankly, the word defund is
Yes.
shocking a lot of Americans.
Yes.
Yes.
But I listen to them when they use the word reform, when they say dollars need to go out of criminal justice and into social services. Why is that a negative argument?
It's a negative argument because you're making the presumption that all these crises happen 9 to 5 when places are open. Okay? We deal with people at 2:30 in the morning when they're in real crisis, when we're looking at suicide by cops, suicidal situations, or people that are on a murderous rage, for lack of a better description. Social workers aren't with us at 2:30 in the morning.
That's a good
We
point.
do go out, and we have something already in place where we go and we do home checks and do things with people of specialized services. And I have to tell you, they won't go without us. They won't go without us.
That's a good point, though. You know, they're open 24/7, but social workers are not.
Right.
No, I think, Bishop, you hit it on the head. The word defunding sounds
Right.
like you wipe out funding.
Yes.
You abolish funding.
Yeah.
Reallocation, reappropriation, that's a different word. But I also want to just inform the viewers because a lot of people had said to me as the mayor, when you're doing your budget, cut money from police and give them to the schools.
Yeah.
And you know this as an elected official. It doesn't work that way.
No.
Any
I've
money
told them
that's
that.
cut goes to the general fund.
Right, I told them
You
that.
can't take, one to go to two. It doesn't work that way in
Right.
municipal finance.
Yeah.
So, we will continue to do collaborative efforts. We will, again, have community outreach. One thing, I took office January 6th.
Yeah, yeah.
Phyllis invited us to Messiah Baptist, me and at that
Yes.
time, acting
Yeah.
chief.
Right.
And listen, that was what it's about.
Yeah.
You get advice, criticism, suggestions. One thing that Chief Gomes did is he gave his cards out.
He did.
And people followed up.
They
Followed
did.
up.
They
So,
did. Some people
we just
followed up.
have to keep the communication going. And I think really to serve the public as a mayor or as a community activist or as an elected official / preacher
Yep.
or as the chief,
Yep.
we're in the people business. People right now are hurting physically from COVID, mentally, emotionally, in terms of financial, and also, of course, racial. So there's a lot right now going on. But I've said this, and I mean this, and I'm not going to be mayor forever. I'm going to be a Brocktonian forever. We can be an example, not just for the Commonwealth, but the nation, if we do it the right way.
Right.
We have the people, we have the passion, we have the collaboration. Growing up in Brockton, it wasn't white and black. It was, I live on the east side, west side, south side, north side. What building are you at Brockton High? Well, I'm in the yellow, I'm in the red. Kind of like what you said. I mean, a lot of cops on the force, 1988 graduate with me. I
Right.
know that.
Yeah.
They didn't
Right.
leave Brockton. So, but again, as the mayor, as a white mayor in a minority majority community, I've said this to you, you're
Yeah.
both my friends. I haven't faced the fear, the bigotry, the discrimination that you have, that my other friends have of color. That's a fact. I have to acknowledge that. I have to listen. To be an effective leader, I have to be a good listener.
Right.
But I also have to surround myself with skilled people.
Right.
Chief Gomes is a skilled person, and it's proven because he just got approved unanimously by the city council. I appointed him for 3 years. The city council just approved him. So you have him for 3
He's our
years.
he's our permanent chief.
Oh,
Yep.
go. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Mayor Sullivan, so we have to segue into census.
Oh,
Current
yes.
data modeling is really suggesting that the city of Brockton is not doing well in terms of getting their census in. Tell me, what is the city doing?
So a couple things. Number one, I agree. I mean, 50% return rate is not acceptable in
Yeah.
any stretch of the imagination. And
50%.
people have
Yes.
to understand that if we don't get it right, we're penalized for another 10 years.
Right.
We're going to miss money, serious money from the feds. We have to get it right. To the point where Secretary of State called me and said Brockton's not doing well and gave us $50,000 grant, okay, to Brockton
Okay.
to try to drum up more business. So on Main Street, we have the banner. We're doing 36,000 household mailer. It's going to be sent next week. Federal census. It's going to be in English, Spanish, Cape Verdean Creole, Haitian Creole. Again, reminding people the ability to go online, the ability to call, or do the regular old-fashioned mail. We have 3 options. In the past, it was you had to go to the mailbox.
Right.
You don't have to do that,
that
now.
anymore.
We have to get it right. The schools are helping us. We have a message on every water bill, every trash bill, every real estate bill. It's there. It's on the city website. Mayor Rodriguez, now Council at Large Rodriguez, had hired an individual. Her contract just expired June 30th. She was charged just to work on census. We've offered her the potential to come back as a consultant to help us. We need
Yeah,
help.
yeah.
At the end of the day, it's reaching out to all the pastors. I'm talking to them at least once a week on a standing call.
Yep, yep.
Reach out to the congregation. Doing venues like this. At the end of the day, if we don't get it right,
Yep.
for the next 10 years, it's shame on us.
Yeah, but the
50
people,
yeah.
the people
Yeah.
got all this information. They just
Right.
refuse to do it. So
Fif-
how do you get people just, hey,
Fill it out.
So you
Yeah.
said it was $50,000 was given by Secretary Galvin's office?
That's correct.
Yeah.
All right, some people are saying, let's get out of the box. What about, how come there aren't what they're calling these electric signs?
We have them on digital billboards on Route 24. We've used
Okay,
two of
all
those.
right.
We've already
So
used
are
two
you
of
going to
those.
hit Main Street with that Montello? People are suggesting
We
Warren.
have and we did this for COVID. We did it for the mandatory curfew.
Yeah.
They're not the digital billboards. They're just the screen. We have those. We're going to be utilizing those as well. We also, I've got commitments from Brockton Hospital, Signature Healthcare, Good Sam. We're going to put it all on the campuses as well. We've already ordered a ton of signage as well.
Yes.
We have one right now on Main Street from Neighborhood Health Center to the old Enterprise building. It's across, but we're going to be blanketing the city. The good thing is they pushed it until October.
Okay.
The deadline now is October, so that
we
gives
didn't
us
wanna-
more time.
We didn't want to tell anybody
Well,
that.
no, no.
You need to say census
No, no, you
equals
gotta do it
money.
now.
Right,
You gotta do it now.
Census equals money.
Yes.
Census
Just
is
tell
it,
them
that's it.
census
Cent
equals money.
Yeah.
Do the census,
True.
people.
We did a
Yeah.
video, a very
Yeah.
well received video. But listen, at the end of the day, every citizen in Brockton
Right.
should do it. It's a mandate,
Yeah.
really.
Listen, we've had Mayor Robert Sullivan. We want to thank Mayor
Thank you.
Sullivan.
Thank you
We want
both.
to thank Chief Gomes. We want to thank our illustrious
We out of
president.
time.
We're out of time.
Oh,
We're out of
no.
time.
Okay. You guys gotta come back.
Do the census. It's all about money. We want to thank you for tuning in to the NAACP Forum. We remain Brockton's choice for civil rights news.